The first thing that bothered me wasn't the distress signal. It was the voice. Calm, professional, repeating the same emergency message every 30 seconds. Blackwater 9 requesting immediate assistance. 3 injured. Containment breach. I was sitting in the Coast Guard Communications Center when the transmission came through. At first, nobody thought much of it. Oil platforms triggered false alarms all the time. Then, one of the operators looked up from his terminal. His face had gone pale. "That's impossible," he said. I asked why. He swallowed hard. Blackwater 9 was abandoned 22 years ago. Lieutenant Harris listened to the message twice before making a decision. "Get a team out there." Within 30 minutes, I was strapped into a Coast Guard Jayhawk helicopter alongside Chief Morgan and Ruiz himself. Rain hammered the aircraft as we lifted off into the darkness. The beacon continued transmitting the entire flight, every 30 seconds. Same message, same voice, no emotion, no panic, just a calm request for assistance. The further we flew into the Gulf, the more uneasy I became. I've responded to sinkings, medical emergencies, and hurricanes. Real distress calls have a certain sound to them: fear, urgency, desperation. This voice had none of those things. It sounded like someone reading a script. 40 minutes later, Avery, our pilot, pointed ahead. "Visual contact." I looked through the rain-streaked window. At first I thought I was seeing a ship. Then the shape grew larger. Blackwater 9 rose out of the storm like a city floating in the ocean, and every light on the platform was on. Floodlights illuminated the decks. Warning beacons blinked atop the derrick. Steam drifted from vents. Machinery appeared to be operating. Ruiz leaned forward. "That's impossible." He was right. A rig abandoned for 22 years should have been dark, dead. Instead, Blackwater 9 looked occupied. Avery circled the platform once. "Thermals are showing heat across multiple sections." Chief Morgan frowned. "Could squatters be living out here?" "Not for 22 years, Ruiz muttered. Lightning flashed across the Gulf. For a split second, I saw something standing near the upper railing. A person, hard hat, coveralls, watching the helicopter. Then darkness returned. "I just saw someone," I said. Morgan immediately looked toward the upper deck. "Where?" "Top level." Avery swung the searchlight across the platform. The beam crawled over steel walkways, pipes, cranes, and railings. Nothing. The figure was gone. The helicopter descended toward the landing pad. Wind howled around us as my boots hit the deck. The moment I stepped onto Blackwater 9, I felt it. The platform vibrated beneath my feet. Not from waves, from machinery. Something on board was running. Morgan keyed his radio. "Boarding team on deck, beginning search." The 3 of us moved toward the main operations structure. Rain streamed down the metal stairs. The entire platform groaned around us. Generators hummed somewhere below. Ventilation fans spun overhead. Everything sounded alive. Then Ruiz stopped. "Chief," he pointed downward. Fresh boot prints crossed the wet deck, not old marks, fresh, as if someone had walked through the rain only minutes before we arrived. The tracks led directly toward the operations module. Morgan studied them for a moment. "Stay close." We followed the prints. The entrance door stood partially open. Warm yellow light spilled out into the storm. Ruiz checked his receiver. The distress signal was stronger than ever. "We're right on top of it," he said quietly. Morgan raised his flashlight. I tightened my grip on my gear. Then all 3 of us froze, because the voice came again. Not through the radio, not through the receiver, from somewhere inside the platform itself. "Blackwater 9 requesting immediate assistance." The words echoed faintly through the hallway beyond the door. I stared into the light. The transmission wasn't coming from some remote beacon. Someone inside Blackwater 9 was broadcasting it, and they had been waiting for us to arrive. The voice stopped the moment we stepped inside. The operations module looked nothing like I expected. After 22 years, I'd imagined rust, collapsed ceilings, and water pouring through broken windows. Instead, everything was clean. The fluorescent lights hummed overhead, computer monitors glowed softly across workstations, coffee sat in a mug beside a keyboard. Not dried out, not covered in dust. Fresh. Ruiz picked it up and stared. It's still warm. Nobody said anything. The three of us spread out through the control room. Every monitor displayed drilling data, pressure readings, and equipment diagnostics. The problem was the timestamps. March 2004. Every screen, every report, every system log, as if the platform had frozen in time. "Morgan," I called. He walked over. I pointed at the display. "Nothing newer than the day of the accident." Morgan frowned. "Yet somehow the power is still running." Ruiz checked another terminal. "Not just power. The generators are active. Ventilation, too." That made no sense. Fuel reserves would have run dry years ago, yet the platform was operating as if someone had been maintaining it. Then we heard movement overhead, a metallic clang. All three of us looked up. Silence followed. Morgan immediately keyed his radio. "Command, we're finding signs of recent activity. No visual contact yet." Static crackled back. Then Harris answered. "Copy. Continue search." The transmission sounded weaker than before, like the storm was getting worse. We moved deeper into the platform. The hallways were brightly lit. Doors stood open. Lockers lined the walls. Inside one break room, a television was running. The screen showed nothing but static. A tray of food sat on a nearby table. Eggs, toast, coffee. The meal looked recently prepared. Ruiz stared at it. "I don't like this." Neither did I. Everything felt staged, like someone wanted us to believe workers were still living here. Then I found the photographs. A bulletin board covered one wall near the crew quarters. Dozens of employee photos were pinned beneath old safety notices. I stepped closer. My stomach tightened. Every face had been scratched out. Deep gouges cut through the photographs, except one. One picture remained untouched. The name beneath it read, Ethan Graves, drilling technician, missing after the 2004 accident. Body never recovered. "Morgan?" He walked over. The moment he saw the photo, his expression changed. "Why leave one untouched?" Nobody had an answer. Ruiz suddenly froze. "You guys hear that?" We listened. At first, I heard nothing. Then, footsteps. Somewhere below us. Slow, heavy, walking through the lower decks. Morgan immediately drew his flashlight. "Let's move." We followed the sound toward the security office. The footsteps stopped before we arrived. The room was empty. Rows of monitors lined the wall, all powered off. At least they were until Ruiz accidentally brushed the control panel. Every screen flickered to life. The three of us jumped. Camera feeds appeared one after another. Decks, catwalks, machinery rooms, storage areas, every section of the platform. Then, every monitor changed simultaneously, displaying the same camera feed. A man walking alone through a lower corridor. Oil-stained coveralls, yellow hard hat. Slow, deliberate steps. The figure suddenly stopped, then looked directly into the camera. My blood ran cold, because it was the same face from the photograph. Ethan Graves, missing for 22 years. The image remained frozen for several seconds. Then the monitor went black. Every screen shut off at once. The security office fell silent. Ruiz backed away from the monitors.
No.
His voice trembled.
No way.
Morgan was already moving toward the door. Lower decks. I looked at him. You think that's him? Morgan grabbed the flashlight tighter. I think somebody wants us to follow them. None of us liked that answer, but we followed anyway. As we reached the stairwell leading deeper into Blackwater 9, I glanced back toward the dark security monitors. For just a second, one screen flickered. A single frame. A face filled the display. Pale. Smiling. Watching us. Then the screen went dark again, and the stairwell lights leading below suddenly switched on one by one, as if something beneath the platform had heard us coming and was inviting us down. The stairwell descended beneath the active sections of the platform. The deeper we went, the older Blackwater 9 looked. Rust stained the walls, paint peeled from pipes, water dripped steadily from the ceiling. Yet the lights still worked. Every time we reached a landing, the next set of lights flickered on ahead of us, as if something knew exactly where we were. Nobody spoke. The air grew warmer with each level. Then we reached the drilling section. The smell hit me immediately. Oil. Not the normal scent of machinery. Something thicker. Rotten. Wrong. Ruiz stopped and aimed his flashlight at the deck. A black puddle stretched across the floor. At first, it looked like spilled crude. Then it moved. The surface rippled. Not from vibration, not from our footsteps. Something inside it shifted. The three of us stared. The liquid slowly settled again. Morgan broke the silence. Keep moving. We followed the corridor into an old maintenance office overlooking the drilling machinery. Most of the equipment should have been dead. Instead, pumps vibrated, pressure gauges moved, warning lights blinked. The platform was still working. Ruiz found a computer terminal still running. The screen displayed archived security footage from March 2004, the night of the accident. Workers moved across the drilling floor. Then alarms activated. People started running. Emergency lights flashed red. The camera shook violently. And something emerged from the drilling shaft. The footage was grainy, but the shape was impossible to miss. A mass of black liquid, climbing upward, forming something almost human. The recording cut to static. Nobody said a word. Morgan opened a nearby logbook. Page after page described the days following the accident. Workers hearing voices in empty rooms. Crew members appearing in places they shouldn't be. People reporting conversations with co-workers who had already been evacuated. Then I found an entry near the end. The sentence had been underlined 3 times. It's learning us. The next page contained the final log entry. It knows our voices now. A metallic bang echoed somewhere beyond the office. All 3 of us looked up. Footsteps, slow, heavy, moving through the corridor outside. One step, then another, then silence. Morgan immediately stepped into the hallway. Nothing. The corridor was empty. Then Ruiz's radio crackled. "Chief?" We froze. The voice coming through the speaker sounded exactly like Ruiz, except Ruiz was standing beside me. His face had gone white. "Chief," the voice repeated. "Come find me." Morgan grabbed the radio. "Who's transmitting?" Static answered. Then the voice returned, still using Ruiz's voice, still perfectly calm. "I'm down here." The transmission ended. For several seconds, nobody moved. Then a heavy steel door slammed somewhere deep below the platform. The sound echoed upward through the structure, from beneath the drilling levels, from somewhere that shouldn't have existed. Morgan looked toward the lower stairwell. The darkness below seemed endless. Then we heard another sound. A man laughing, faint, distant, coming from somewhere far beneath our feet. Morgan raised his flashlight. "Let's go." And against every instinct screaming at me to leave, we started descending toward whatever was waiting below. We followed the lower stairwell until it opened into a section that wasn't on any platform map, at least not any map we'd seen. The corridor beyond looked older than the rest of Blackwater 9. Raw steel walls, ancient equipment, dust. The first truly abandoned area we'd found. Morgan swept his flashlight across the darkness. "Stay together." The beam landed on something ahead. A man, standing motionless at the end of the corridor. My heart nearly stopped. Ruiz. The figure was wearing Coast Guard gear, same build, same posture, same helmet. Ruiz stepped forward. "That's not me." The figure slowly raised its head. Its face was hidden in shadow. Then it smiled. Not naturally. Too wide, far too wide. Morgan immediately raised his weapon. The figure didn't react. It simply stood there, watching us. Then the lights above flickered. For half a second, the corridor went dark. When the lights returned, the figure was gone. The space where it had been standing was empty. Ruiz backed away. "Nope." I couldn't blame him. Every instinct told me to get back to the helicopter. Instead, we continued forward. The corridor eventually opened into a massive underground chamber. At the center stood the original drilling shaft, the source of the 2004 accident. The hole descended into darkness far below the platform, and surrounding it were people. Dozens of them. Workers in oil-stained coveralls, hard hats, safety vests, all standing perfectly still. My flashlight swept across their faces. Every one of them was smiling. None of them blinked. None of them moved. The room felt frozen. Morgan whispered one word. "Jesus." A nearby radio crackled, then another, then another. The workers all carried old radios clipped to their belts. Every single one activated simultaneously. The same voice filled the chamber. "Blackwater 9 requesting immediate assistance." Dozens of radios, one transmission, one voice. The workers slowly turned toward us, every head moving at exactly the same speed, like puppets controlled by a single set of strings. Then one stepped forward. The hard hat identified him immediately. Ethan Graves. The same man from the photograph. The same man who had disappeared 22 years ago. He stopped a few feet from the edge of the drilling shaft. His smile never changed. Then he spoke. But the voice wasn't his. It was mine. "Daniel." I froze. The thing smiled wider. Then it spoke again, this time using Morgan's voice. "Stay together." Then Ruiz's voice. "That's impossible." Every sentence we'd spoken since boarding the platform, repeated perfectly, copied, learned. The logbook flashed through my mind. It's learning us. The workers began stepping forward, not running, not rushing, walking calmly, confidently, as if they already knew how this would end. Ethan tilted his head. Then all of them spoke at once. Dozens of voices. Workers, Coast Guard personnel, men and women, some old, some recent, all overlapping into a single impossible chorus. And from somewhere deep inside that wall of voices came one sentence, a sentence that silenced the entire room. "Now, there are more of you." The lights went out. For one terrible second, the chamber disappeared into darkness. Then emergency lighting flooded the room in deep red. The workers were closer, much closer. They hadn't walked. They had simply moved, as if distance meant nothing to them anymore. Morgan grabbed my shoulder. "Run!" And for the first time since we arrived on Blackwater 9, nobody argued. We ran. The chamber erupted into movement behind us. The workers didn't sprint, they didn't shout, they simply walked, slowly, smiling. Yet every time I looked back, they were closer. Red emergency lights flooded the corridors as alarms suddenly activated throughout Blackwater 9. For the first time since we'd arrived, the platform felt unstable. Metal groaned, pipes screamed, the entire structure shook beneath our feet. We burst back into the drilling section. Pressure gauges swung wildly. Warning lights flashed across every control panel. The machinery was pushing far beyond safe limits. Ruiz checked one of the displays. His face went pale. "Pressure's spiking." A violent tremor rocked the deck. Then every radio on the platform activated at once. "Blackwater 9 requesting immediate assistance!" The voice echoed from every direction. Hallways, control rooms, PA speakers. The entire platform was broadcasting the same message. We reached the operations module. The workers were already there, standing motionless throughout the room, waiting, watching. Ethan Graves stepped forward. His smile widened. Then something changed. The skin on his face rippled. For a brief moment, it looked like liquid, like whatever was wearing him could no longer hold the shape together. Morgan stared at him, then made a decision. "Get Ruiz to the helicopter." I knew what he was thinking immediately. The emergency fuel reserves, enough explosive material to destroy the platform. "Morgan, go!" Before either of us could stop him, he grabbed an ignition pack and ran back toward the drilling levels, toward the thing beneath Blackwater 9. It was the last time I ever saw him. Ruiz and I ran for the helipad. The platform shook continuously now. Steam burst from ruptured pipes. Warning sirens screamed through the storm. The smiling workers followed us, still walking, still getting closer. We reached the landing deck just as the helicopter moved into position. The rescue basket dropped through the rain. Ruiz climbed aboard. I turned back one final time and saw something rising from the drilling shaft. A massive black shape, far larger than any human. Faces shifted across its surface. Workers, crew members, dozens of them, appearing and disappearing within the darkness. The thing had been down there the entire time, waiting, learning, growing. A flash of light erupted below. "Morgan," I hit the detonator. The explosion tore through Blackwater 9. Fire erupted from beneath the drilling deck. The derrick collapsed, steel twisted apart. Then the entire platform began sinking into the gulf. Minutes later, nothing remained except burning debris floating on the waves. 3 weeks later, the investigation was closed. Mechanical failure. No evidence of survivors. Case closed. Then I received a photograph taken by a helicopter safety camera during our extraction. At first, nothing seemed unusual. Then I noticed the figure standing behind Ruiz. Chief Morgan, smiling. The problem was Morgan never boarded the helicopter. His body was never recovered. That night, my radio crackled on the desk beside me. Static filled the room. Then a familiar voice spoke, calm, professional, unchanged. "Blackwater 9 requesting immediate assistance." I froze, because this time there were other voices behind it, dozens of them, and one of those voices belonged to Morgan. And that's where tonight's story comes to an end. The Coast Guard never officially explained what happened aboard Blackwater 9. The reports were sealed, the wreckage disappeared beneath the Gulf, and every question seemed to sink along with the platform. But maybe some things aren't meant to stay buried. Maybe some distress calls aren't asking for help. And maybe, somewhere beneath miles of dark water, something is still listening. waiting for the next voice to answer. If you enjoyed this story and want more terrifying tales from forgotten places, abandoned facilities, deep forests, remote highways, and things that should have stayed hidden, make sure to subscribe to Campfire Horror Stories. We're getting closer to our next milestone, and every subscription helps the channel grow and brings more horror stories to life. And if you made it all the way to the end, let me know in the comments. What would you have done if you stepped onto Blackwater 9 and found the lights still on? As always, thank you for listening. Stay safe, stay alert, and whatever you do, if a voice starts calling for help from a place that's been empty for 22 years, don't answer. We'll see you in the next story.